What's the story of how you got into entrepreneurship? Because I think most of the people who I chat with, and I think most people who watch the show are probably from the U.S. Definitely most of the people I
Uh-huh.
chat with. So, what were there any like kind of unique challenges or opportunities that presented itself being Croatian and getting into online business?
Uh, uh, yeah, but I was super passionate about internet from very young age. I got my first PC back in 1995, something like this. So I was really early to catch on the Alta Vista and all that. Uh, so I suppose that naturally graduated into entrepreneurship, and I had my first website really, really early on, and but I just couldn't find a way to monetize and to make my first million
Right.
online. So that's
That's a
the
problem.
key puzzle that's missing. Yeah, but I think that's the key puzzle that everybody is missing, right? So, but I wouldn't say it's been hard. If anything, nowadays I like to preach around locally, saying how you really have the opportunities the same here in Croatia as you have in the US, because you can go online, you can create an Amazon FBA business, shipped from a factory in China, so you really don't have that much of disadvantages as you had maybe 20 or 30, 40 years ago.
And you can still reach an international audience, and I guess the cost of living is probably quite a bit lower there as well.
For sure, yeah, that's definitely one of the benefits. I mean, the nature is beautiful, cost of living is low. I don't have a college debt. I don't have a This apartment is being paid in full, so I don't have a huge mortgage. What's next? The cars, the cars, we don't spend like $30,000 on a brand new car. So the cost of living it's much lower, and the opportunity is still there. Uh, you can own online websites that have US target audience. So
hmm
there you have it.
So, are most of your businesses right now targeting like U.S. audience, or are you pretty international?
International and US. So there will be kind of the sequence. My main business for API is mostly international, but uh, the biggest country out of the international audience would be the US.
Mm.
But it doesn't, less than 50% is from the US, if that makes sense. And then the website that I own, some are local here, just because I found website sellers that had, websites in the local market, and then obviously, like everybody else, also I'm targeting the US and uh, first tier countries, if you'd like to call them that way, and so that's kind of how it lines up.
Okay, cool. That's very interesting. So let's talk about. You mentioned your website. What does your current portfolio have, and then what do you spend most of your time doing in your day to day?
My main business for API, just because I have investors there, and it's the oldest that I'm working on, and it brings in the most revenue. So it's kind of that's why it takes most of my attention. And we're coming up on the decade. It's going to be 10 years since we registered whoapi.com. So we're planning like a big revamp of a new website, updating our APIs and the infrastructure and everything. So that's kind of the main focus. And then the spin-off website where we use a lot of our APIs, it's called webmaster.ninja, and I think that's going to be the most interesting to the audience here. And then kind of like a third, the bronze medal goes to my portfolio website. So it's kind of on a backlog, but I also get a lot of passive income from those, and I do update them. The ones that are doing, how it is. You buy let's say 10 websites, and then some go great, some die, and some are so. So I do spend more time and money on the ones that are going, that are aging well. To
That's
put it in a way. my vocabulary.
Well said. So, okay, there's a lot to unpack here because I want to talk about kind of your process of building businesses and buying businesses. But first, I want to ask you. So, you've got these projects going on, and like your gold and silver and bronze medals. How in the world do you manage your time and manage to like actually produce valuable stuff for all three of those businesses? And I'll give you some context here. So, I run two businesses right now. So BrandBuilders and then another tool called SiteBuddy. And even with two projects, man, I feel like I am drowning in tasks. Like I think perhaps it's just my nature. Part of me is like, man, I don't like to work on multiple things at the same time. I like to kind of go really deep in one. But Goran, how in the world do you do it?
Well, first of all, I'm not saying it's the right way, right? Maybe I'm totally doing it wrong, but here's how it got from me. I was working solely on Who API for, maybe 5-6 years. Nothing else. Just one website, one project. It's been super hard, and I don't want to go on, down that story. But once you're doing nothing but one project, you start feeling hungry for other projects, other ideas, and the only way to find that winning lottery ticket, or however you want, the home run of all projects, you have to investigate, outside of the box and into different areas, and that's how you start learning as well. And that's how I got into the Who API business in the first place. We were doing websites for our clients and web hosting, and we were having these side projects, and one of them took off like with nothing seen. So that's how I got into several projects. But great tools increase productivity. So that's kind of what helps you build up on your focus, and maybe meditation for somebody, something like this. But for me, tools like Pomodoro, I use the Pomodoro technique of working and taking a break, maybe a little bit of stretching, or so this is actually a standing desk as well. So I would stand for 25 minutes, and then I would sit for 25 minutes. So that also helps you break the workload. We're living on an island, so we often take a long walk. So walking in the nature also helps the brain to see something different. I also use a tool called Freedom, which essentially blocks out all social media, all news portals, all distractions really that I saw in the past that would not help me achieve the goals that I'm working. And shameless plug, Webmaster Ninja is a great tool. When you're managing several websites and you want to keep track of all of them, tools like Webmaster Ninja help you to see that everything is okay, that all the websites are working. So there you have it. I mean, tools help a lot.
Do you use any form of like time blocking? Because here's my thoughts, and I think this is probably what I struggle with the most, is not so much not having time in the day, but I feel like I have trouble getting into like a flow state, like into deep work. Have you heard that term?
Yeah. And I read the books, both Deep Work by Ryan Holiday, or what was his name, and the Flow, and yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I feel that I have trouble getting into a state of deep work, a state of flow while working on multiple businesses. So how do you manage that? Like, how do you make sure that you're being truly productive and not just like, responding to emails all day, or like getting into like messaging back and forth or with your workers or whatever, but actually producing truly valuable tasks for all of your businesses? How do you manage that?
I think that's the golden question, right? I think everybody's for sure. I've tried, some of it is just trial and error. I've tried, there are great books like The 1 Minute Manager and Getting Things Done. So there are great books that help in that direction. I've tried adding everything to my calendar, like all the day, all the week, minute by minute throughout the calendar, that didn't work so well. Then in Getting Things Done, you read that you're not supposed to put in the calendar anything except interviews like this one. That's in your calendar. But what helps me is yearly goals, and then every month I would watch my yearly goals, and then I would try to create tasks that are supporting the yearly goals. Sometimes it's the end of the year, sometimes you're disappointed you haven't achieved your goal, but sometimes it's a good thing because you don't want to set your goals too low. You don't want to achieve a goal and then go, this is all there is to it, right? It's not the right goal. But then again, when you're doing it over the years, it's super exciting to see you hit the goal that you set yourself like 3 years ago, and it seemed like totally far-fetched. That's like the best feeling ever. And you have to know why you're doing all this. Is it your family? Is it your children? Your something else? So you have to have a great reason. Otherwise, you just quit. And no amount of productivity, meditation, or anything will get you to get the work done. So those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, talking about kind of time blocking and like the debate, like, well, how much should you fill your calendar? There's a great essay by a guy named Paul Graham who runs Y Combinator. It's called Make Your Schedule, Manager's Schedule. And he breaks down the difference between how managers operate. So people who are, I would consider myself a manager, who have direct reports, who have people like who need to chat with people all day. And then he distinguishes that from what he calls a maker schedule, someone who has truly productive work. So a coder, a writer, a video producer, or whatever. And it's really interesting because, he's been on both and now he's multi-billionaire. But just looking at the distinctions, like how much of your day is spent managing others, so chatting with others, and then how much of your day is spent making stuff, like actually producing new information out there. What would you say that your kind of ratio is on that, like percentages?
10 to 90, 20-80. Let's go with the 20-80 rule. I would say working 80 and then 20, checking my rear view mirror and my, my road ahead. I don't know if that's the right average, but that's what it is for me, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. All right. That answers that. I'm trying to get into a more healthy balance of that myself. I feel like mine is perhaps 80-20 the other way, like 80% of my day spent managing and on calls, and the other 20% spent creating. And that's like, that ratio has worked as far as a financial perspective, but sometimes, man, it's draining. Like I think I'm a creator at heart. I love to write, I love to produce videos, and just a small portion of my day is spent doing that. So trying to fix that.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there. And the thing I've learned or felt on my skin was sometimes, you just put hours of work and then you realize, oh my God, it's the wrong work that I did. And it's kind of went down the drain. So that's like, I honestly, I hate that feeling. And then in some other cases, I was going to share something that's not really for public sharing, but
that's okay.
Let me find a different example. Let's say something happens out of the blue that you weren't expecting, or you haven't put that much effort into it, and it makes all the difference. And then you realize, man, if I just sat down for an hour and thought about this and that, maybe this could have occurred more often or sooner. So anyway, it kind of, some people get the wrong impression, and even I sometimes I say about myself, I'm totally lazy and not working a lot and things like this. But uh, anyway, I don't know. Definitely, maybe my approach changes in 5 years again. The other way around. So anyway.
Who knows? Who knows? Changing topics a bit. So let's chat about your online businesses. So you've got whoapi.com and then webmaster.ninja, and then you have your portfolio of sites. So which one of those have you built from the ground up, and which one of those have you bought?
That's a great question. I've built Who API from the ground and Webmaster Ninja. And the websites, I think all of them except my personal website, I've bought. And anyway, the reason why I built Who API from the ground was because, like I said, it was a crazy story. We built a landing page, put some Google AdWords and a couple of backlinks, and we started getting pre-orders. We didn't have the software coded or anything. This was post 4-hour work week back in 2011 ish. Right. No, 2010. Yeah, 2010. We first registered getquizxml.com, and then we switched that in 2011 to whoapi.com. So that's why I built. We raised angel investment seed capital for that venture. So it was definitely built from scratch, and there was a good reason because of the pre-orders. And then Webmaster Ninja was built from scratch because I wanted a great use case for our APIs, and I had this idea for this website monitoring, and I had a bunch of ideas for a use case of our APIs, and I wanted one project that uses almost all of them. That didn't go so well because there's so many website monitoring services out there. It's super hard to differentiate yourself. And then after a while, I started buying websites, and I realized I started changing Webmaster Ninja to help me manage the portfolio and the websites with the new dashboard and the new screenshots. So that's how that story unraveled.
Talking about Webmaster Ninja for a second, what are some of the ways that you have monitored you have differentiated yourself? Because you're right, there are quite a few website monitoring solutions out there.
Yeah, so one of them would be the website manager, where you can see all your portfolio in a single page and the traffic within. So we've integrated with the Google Analytics, and Google Search Console will be hopefully by the end of this month. So you will be able to see data from Google Search Console.
That's great.
And excuse me?
That's great.
Yeah, thanks. And we did an integration with Google AdSense, so that's geared more towards the website investor niche, because the regular website monitoring tools have no intention of connecting with Google AdSense, or maybe we connect Amazon Associates or Awin or some other network in the future, depending on what our users say. And the content is mostly geared towards the website investors. So that's kind of how we're trying to differentiate.
Just out of curiosity, I've heard that it's very difficult to integrate with Google and in certain ways. How much of a challenge has that been?
We have a great team. I'm not sure what to say. It hasn't been so much challenging. The APIs that Google provides are, I suppose they're okay with us. We haven't had any roadblocks. The data that we wanted to show inside Webmaster Ninja, we were able to show. So it worked out well for us.
Okay, that's great. I've heard from people that it's like, man, it's so difficult to integrate with Google's stuff. Like it's just challenging to work with them. So I don't know how true that is. I'm not a
Yeah,
developer.
yeah. Then again, Google has a lot of stuff out there. So I'm not sure. Maybe we've been lucky with those three. So who knows, really?
Who knows? Who knows?
But
I hope.
yeah, and then again, we are the API experts, right? I mean, we have our own API, so it's not like how do you integrate this API? It's kind of,
You should, yeah, you should be pretty good at that. So, do you come from a developer background?
no, not really. I mean, I've developed when I was in high school. That's how I started my entrepreneurship journey in high school. We were an indie game development team. So I did a bit of code. I think I developed one or two games. But then everybody in the team were developers, and I was starting to think, okay, but how are people gonna find out about our games? We have to, we have to promote and do interviews and do what's this thing called SEO. So I started getting backlinks and things like this, and that kind of morphed into, I have to take on the business side as well, not just marketing. And so I left my coding days way behind.
I was listening to a guy named Naval Ravikant over the past few days, and he's
you actually know.
Okay. Oh, really? Like in person?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm jealous. He has a great expression that there are two ways to make money in the world. You can build something or you can sell something. And when you can do both, that's the path to really big wealth. And it sounds to me like to some extent you can at least do both, even if you spend most of your time on the selling side.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with developers early on. I was really surrounded with them, and I get used to the question: if you're not a developer, what exactly are you doing in this company?
Like there's nothing else to do in a company.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. At first, I was offended, and then I realized, that's just what they asked, and I was like, okay. So I spent a lot of time with developers, and then I got myself into this super technical product, which demanded even more from me to understand how it's going. And if you want to do sales or marketing of a highly technical product, you need to be at least on some level with developers. But I can code shit, and you can do that. But the HTML, CSS, that's kind of I can read some of PHP code, just to when I get an error, so that I can delegate the work. But that's pretty much it.
I see. Going back really quick to like the building versus buying, because I would like to learn more about this. This is an area where I'm very curious at. So what do you view as the benefits of building versus buying? Because you're someone who's it sounds like you've done quite a lot of both. So correct me if I'm wrong here. You have mostly built your non-content site portfolio, and your content site portfolio you've mostly bought.
That's a great assumption, and I think it's correct. Yeah, I'm just running some websites through my head, but yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
What would you view as the pros and cons of building versus buying? Because this is a debate that I have with myself a lot. I've done both. I'm much more comfortable building because I know the beast I'm going into, and part of this comes down to due diligence. But when I have come into an existing company before, it's been like, gosh, man, there are problems that it would have been very difficult to detect in due diligence, or like problems that I just don't enjoy solving because it's almost like these are someone else's problems that they left with me, and now I've got to fix them, which is totally the nature of buying, but it just kind of leaves this little sour taste in my mouth. So what would you view as like the pros and cons of each, and which one do you prefer?
Well, right now, and this may change in the future, but right now I prefer buying because hitting product market fit is super hard. Yeah, that's that's kind of the biggest, what is working. And when you see, even to a small extent, something working, it's so rewarding, to just buy that and just to get it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm leaning toward that, because when you're starting first, even with all the research and due diligence, it's still super hard to find. You have these assumptions, and for me, this latest project that I've built from scratch, Webmaster Ninja, you have these assumptions. This is a great idea. This is a great tool. This will help people. And then you get crickets, and then you want to throw yourself off the bridge, right? So that's kind of that's the biggest turnoff for me in building from scratch. But I do agree with you. When you buy something, you also inherit the problems. So one website in particular that comes to my mind is actually doing great, but it's in Django, and I think the seller was having trouble selling the website because it was in Django. Luckily for me, I have a great team and they're okay with Django. So there you have it. This is one of the best websites that I bought. But to this day, when I want to add content or something and I want to delegate this work to somebody to add the content, it's like, okay, you log into Django, and then it's okay. What's Django? Developers know Django, but some content creators have no idea, what's
I don't
Django
know
and how
what
to work.
Django is.
Yeah. So and moving this from changing platforms, that's different kind of worms. You don't want to go there. So it's definitely a tough nut to crack. What can I say? I bought a website this week, so.
Most people buy new phones. Goran buys websites. So.
Yeah. Well, it's end of the year, so Christmas came in early, and there you have
it. Talking about buying as kind of a main strategy. Do you know who Kevin Peterson is? The guy who runs Growth Stack Inc.
No, I haven't heard of him, but I'll definitely look him up later.
Yeah, so you can look at my existing interviews. I think he was on here. I think I published his interview like last week or something. Super great guy, as smart as they come. His whole philosophy right now is buying these basically validated SaaS businesses, software as a service businesses. I think they have to have like $1 million in I think it's like $1 million in asset value. Like I can't remember how much in monthly revenue. But this is his whole philosophy right now, and he's looking to take his company public. He said it on the podcast. So, but he just finds these basically software companies. I think the thing he looks for, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think in our conversations I've got a pretty good idea of this, is that he looks for these companies where the owners aren't truly expert marketers. They were great builders, and they did an excellent job building a business, but they don't really have what it takes, or they don't really care to take it to the next level. And he comes in and he's got a marketing background, and he just takes over these SaaS businesses, and it seems to me like he's been killing it. He bought Longtail Pro. Are you familiar with Longtail Pro?
Yeah.
So he's the one who bought that from, I can't remember was it Kingmakers who had Longtail Pro? I don't remember now.
After Spencer, I'm not sure, but yeah, I know that it switched hands.
Yeah. So he's the current owner, and then he's got a few other products as well. But he's hard into this buying camp, and it just scares me a bit. So do you have any tips for? I think a lot of my audience are probably like first or second time buyers who are looking at these assets. What do you wish you had known before you had started purchasing online assets?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think for first time buyers, maybe this will sound counterintuitive, but build something from scratch. Try building something from scratch. It's definitely a great learning process. You learn the ins and outs of a lot of stuff, and then buying into a smaller site just so that you don't risk too much. If you have like $50,000 to invest, don't invest all 50,000 in one website, and then a year from now everything sinks, and then you're like, this this stuff was the worst idea ever. So it's a process. You have to go into it gradually, and a lot of people don't like to hear that. They want the quick buck. They want quick returns, $1,000 a month for $20,000. Yeah, I'll buy it. And then sounds too good to be true. Well, it probably is. So.
Yep. So one thing I see a lot of people in the I don't know. I shouldn't say I see a lot of people talking about this. One thing my friends in the space talk about sometimes is using an FBA loan. Or FBA? I don't remember what it's called. It's basically like
a small business.
SBA. That's right. That's right. I think someone and I were discussing buying a house yesterday, and there's a loan you can get in the US called FHA. So I think I was combining FHA and small business loan. Anyways. When you purchase businesses, do you do it all cash or do you take on debt?
All cash, and that's why I'm limited to small businesses. I took seed funding and angel funding, and I've had the burden of loans in the past. So once you go through the what's it called, 7 Baby Steps by Dave Ramsey, and you go debt free, you really want to stay there. I have friends that have investors and then they buy websites, and definitely enables them to get there much faster, and buy more exciting projects and everything. But for me at this stage, I'm just not something I'm interested in. And besides, the main business that I have still has, the angel funding and venture funding and all that. So I do feel obligation to return the at least some portion of money to the investors. Although it was, it's when you invest in startups, it's super risky. 9 in 10 fail. So excuse me. So it's really, it's not that I have to, but I feel morally obliged, and the website is still generating revenue. So I feel I do have plans down the road to at least somehow recompensate them. So it's kind of that's why I'm not super excited about getting an investor to buy the websites or an SBA loan or any type of deal where I know guy Kawasaki, was it Kawasaki, right?
Yeah.
He would definitely advise, get a loan and then buy a house and then rent the house and then get the returns. It's a great idea, but times are strange, since the financial meltdown and getting a big loan. Maybe I'm getting older or something, but getting a bigger loan, it scares more and more me as I age.
Yeah, it scares me too, especially with online assets, especially content sites. I wouldn't recommend an SBA loan to anyone who's getting a content site because, man, they're just so volatile. Like, you're already getting a 30-something% return on investment. Like,
Right.
and that should tell you right there, you're taking on a good little chunk of risk. It's like, are you really sure that you want to throw debt into that mix? Like, man, you could your one Google update, or especially if you're like an Amazon affiliate site or zero income diversification, all your traffic's from SEO. Like, you've got 2 main point of failures there. Like, Amazon can shut you down, or whoever your affiliate program is, Google could shut you down. Like, and they do. Like, it happens all the time. It's like, man, it makes me fearful when friends of mine talk about getting small business loans to get content sites. Like, dang. Man.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely have to know what you're doing and what you're getting yourself into. For sure.
Testicular fortitude.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially with some valuation these days, you have a website that's 1 year old, and based on the 6-month average, it's worth X. Right.
Whatever.
Right.
In
Yeah,
your
yeah.
dreams.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get a loan to buy this. Uh-huh. No, no, yeah, I would rather, put down $5,000 of my own cash and then, over time grow that than get because having I know what it you don't have to get a loan, you can get an investor, and I know what it is to have an investor, uh, especially if it's a bad investor, let alone a good investor. Then, like, okay, but even with good investors, you have things you have to do that you might not like, or that will take away your time, and but that's the name of the game. If they invest the money, of course you have investor responsibilities. Even Apple, Google, and big companies, they have investor relations. Warren Buffett every year, he gives a little speech to investors. You're not Warren Buffett, so you have to do the speeches more often than once a year. So, yeah, so that's there you have it. That's how that goes. So I don't know. That's the route I chose. It's perfectly fine the other way, but for me, I'm just not. I'm not interested in that.
So do most of your businesses have an investor component in them, or are you the sole owner?
Just the main one, the main business, since that one was built from scratch, and we took angel and venture funding, so that was the one. And then the websites that I bought with my own money.
Is that how you got involved in the angel world and met my hero Naval?
No, your question is a bit not clear, so let me just clear it up a little bit. So I met a lot of angels when I was fundraising for the main business. So if that's what you had in mind.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, cool. I was just curious. Because I would love to meet Naval.
Both Naval and his brother Kamal. Kamal
That's
was Kamal was semi into the main industry world, so that's how we got connected.
I love it, man. That's awesome. That's super sweet, man. So, Goran, what are your future plans? So, growing your business? Are you selling any businesses? About to retire on that island of yours? What's up?
Yeah, this is called what's the FIRE? Is it the FIRE community?
That's right. Financial independence, retire early. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, I'm leaning towards that one. But yeah, I think I mentioned it a little bit. We're revamping the website for Who API, and the entire infrastructure is being revamped and rejuvenated. Webmaster Ninja, new features, like I said, integration with the Search Console, and hopefully we're going to integrate other networks like Google AdSense, so you can track the revenue from your websites inside the dashboard. And yeah, I already mentioned I bought a website, so maybe I'll buy some, maybe I'll sell some. I've sold in the past as well, so my portfolio is changing. The first website that I bought and that worked out well was for $500. This is not exciting to me anymore, so obviously I'll probably sell that one and buy something bigger. So it's kind of the nature of things.
You mentioned earlier getting a website for Christmas. I would say if you're getting a website for Christmas, you've already done the FI part, the financial independence part. You're probably okay, Goran. Oh, that's funny, man.
Well,
Is there like any? I'm sorry.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Is there like any number that you're trying to hit? Like if you could hit X dollars in the bank account or in your investments, you'd be done. You'd quit. Give it up.
Well, I guess I wouldn't quit, because I'm close. I mean, I'm not close to the number, but I'm close to the lifestyle. I already mentioned the 4-hour work week, and in that book, it's pretty clear how people don't really need $1 million. They want the lifestyle that the $1 million bring, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're always going to want a bigger house, a bigger home, better car, and those material things, right? But there's a great quote by Jim Rohn that I have in my screen in front of me. It's beware of what you become in the pursuit of what you want. And let's say that my goal is $1 million, right? And I want to be debt free and all that, or that my website portfolio is making $10,000 a month. That's great, but if I in the process of that I get a divorce or get really sick, neglect my health, I'm really a health fanatic. I'm one of those guys that drinks kale, and I said that right. I drink kale.
Kale, yeah, that's right. I think. Yeah.
So you have some priorities in life, and business and money is one of them. And although we've talked only about business here, and I'm super excited about that, there's another part that you have to have attention all the time about that part as well. So anyway, beware of what you become in the pursuit of what you want.
Yeah, Naval has our buddy Naval. I'm going to start calling him our buddy Naval until I actually meet him. Our buddy Naval has a quote that it's a calm mind, a fit body, and a loving home. These are the things that you can't buy. And I think it's so easy to turn into something that we don't like while I'm going to use the words growing up, because I think we're all still babies inside, all still children.
Yeah, there's a fine line. There's a fine line. I crossed it in 2012 when I was fundraising for my startup in Silicon Valley. I got super excited. We flew there, and I was working God knows how many hours. And I worked out in the gym. I went running every single day because, gung ho. And then I got sick. My lymph nodes got swollen, and I had a fever and the whole shebang, and I ended up in bed. And then I realized, whoa, this is not the right path. I've messed up something. I made the wrong choice somewhere down the road, and I switched it around, and it never happened since. So there you have it. Words of wisdom.
Yeah, that's great. So is your wife pretty supportive of your entrepreneurial pursuits? I assume you probably work a pretty decent amount of hours today.
Yeah, that's it's a must for sure. You have to be surrounded with people who are supportive. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. You're doing it for them, and they should support you, and vice versa. Because of their support, you're doing it for them. So it's kind of one of those perpetual. What's the perpetual mobile, right? The machine that works on keeps on working by itself.
Yeah, like perpetual motion machine, something like that. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Were you entrepreneurial before or after you got in the relationship? Like, when did the journey in entrepreneurship begin relative to your relationship?
Before, no, I was, like I said, in high school. I was already, what kind of a game can we build, and how can we sell this game on a PC CD-ROM? Like a boxed version. So I was pretty early, and I was 23 when I started my first company.
How cool, man! That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like to know about people, because I think it's so difficult if you come into entrepreneurship late. Like, it's not impossible, but like if you're married and you've got kids, like all of a sudden you've got these other commitments, and then say you're in just a regular salary job, quoting our buddy Naval. I think he was quoting somebody when he said, like, one of the most dangerous things in the world is a monthly salary, or the most addictive things in the world are cocaine and a monthly salary. I can't remember who said that. I first heard that from Naval, but I can't remember who said that. And that's so true. And like, man, I feel for these guys and gals who get into entrepreneurship and they're married and they've got a monthly salary and now they just want to change their life and their spouse is just not supportive. So no question there. Just
Yeah, often prayers, often prayers. I'm I have a few people in my life that are, the same problem, and you want to help them, and I honestly don't know how. You send them like a message, a YouTube video, a URL, an article, something, a book. For the holidays, you give them a book, and you hope that people will act on it. But it's super hard, and it's easy for me to say when I'm not in their shoes. But I can understand the pain, and especially when things are not going well, then it's like super hard.
mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Who knows? Perhaps the only way to convince your family and your spouse is to succeed in business and to make more than you were with your day job. I'm just a single 23-year-old, so maybe don't take my advice, but it seems to me like that would help.
That's why really appreciate what Spencer, for example, is doing with all the advice that he's given, and the podcast. I think podcast in particular turned me around and got me to. So the first website I bought I was scammed for $2,000, and then it took me maybe 2 years before starting to buy websites again, and somewhere along that time I found the Niche Pursuits podcast, and I was like super pumped with all the ideas and the success stories and what have you. And I was thinking, this has got to be the right way. I just didn't get it right the first time, and I got back to the drawing board, and thank God I did, because it worked out well afterwards. So I'm really appreciative of people like Spencer who create, and now you as well, for this podcast and the YouTube channel. Putting out the content there, and some poor fellow out there who needs an escape from his monthly paycheck will think, oh, look at this Goran guy. If this schmuck can do it, then at least have the numbers, I can do it as well. Uh-huh. And he will buy a website for a few $1,000s, and maybe he will grow it by 2x and sell it again, and then buy another one, and keep the ball going on. And once they have the first proof, maybe the new support will come from the family as well.
That's certainly the hope. Goran, thanks so much for your time today. Hey, man, got some last minute questions if you've still got a couple minutes. Are you good for another? Okay. So real quick, it's a rapid fire questions. What is one tool that you cannot live without?
Webmaster Ninja. Joking. The tool that I spend more time is, Gmail, and if that's not a tool, I would say Bitrix 24. It's a productivity tool for tasks, and that's where I mostly manage my development team.
Bitrix 24. I'm going to look that up right now. And then I've also got another tool you mentioned. Got Freedom pulled up, and then of course Webmaster Ninja pulled up.
I think I mentioned Pomodoro, but that's a really simple tool that it just beeps off once your Pomodoro is done. Maybe 25 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on the sequence that you set up for yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I've done that. I get a little bored doing Pomodoro because I feel like my day is lasting forever. Like I've got 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 25 on, 5 minutes off. And like, that's just 1 hour. Like I have to do that 32 times, like the whole, like each step. It's like, oh my gosh, like no way. So what I have done in the past is I've done like a 52 minute, which I think there's some research on that, 52 minutes on, and then like 5 to 8 minutes off, and then kind of repeat that. So it keeps things a little bit more interesting for me, because like, man, just the constant constant beeping with like the 25/5 sequences. Like, oh my gosh, gotta do
Yeah,
another one
yeah,
of these.
yeah. It changes over time. Right now, I'm on the 25/25. So I also couldn't stand the beeping and the yeehaw. And on more than a few occasions, my wife would jump off the chair when at the end of sequence, I have like a yeehaw. And then she's like, go to the like, you with the yeehaw, cut it out.
Oh man, what's a resource that you have been recommending to other people lately?
Um, resource for what? For for website investing or productivity or?
I would say for anything. So I'll give you an example. There's two resources I've been recommending a lot lately. One is the book Never Split the Difference. Have you read it?
Yep.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm on my fourth read. Yeah, it's good. And then the other resource that I've been recommending is, I'm not a big consumer of podcasts, but this past week, I literally learned who Naval Ravikant was this week. I think I mentioned him, like, this is basically Naval's podcast. I literally learned who he was this week, and I've been so impressed with him that I haven't stopped telling my friends about him. So one resource I've been recommending is he has a podcast episode that's like, it's basically a summary of some of his tweet storms about how to get rich without getting lucky. It's like a 3-hour podcast. And I think I've listened to it 2 or 3 times now, and I've been recommending it to all my friends. So anything like that.
For sure. And I have a trick answer. I think nowadays and I think we've touched this just a moment ago. It's super hard getting people to act. All those resources, you have great YouTube channels and articles and books, and I mean, this is a minor portion of books that we own. We have a storage over there on the phone and everything. So there's so much resources, but for me as well, it's super easy to read the book, but to act on it, that's the hard part for me, as well as I've seen for other people as well. So if I may, I would slightly move the focus on getting to act on the ideas, on the resources that you found. So leave it at that.
Well said answer. And this might answer our second question. So we discussed this a little bit before the podcast. But what would you say is the most successful strategy you've done this year? Maybe act on the resources you read.
Yeah, there you have it. Like doing that one thing that you've been postponing for a year. I think that's like the biggest win. I think Gary Vaynerchuk had this one rant where he said 1 is better than 0. So I think that's there you have it for strategy.
There you go. Awesome. And then what's one way that you have cut expenses this year?
All the way: software, accounting, and web hosting. So I think the most interesting one would be that I'm just in the process this week. I think we'll shut it down this week. We had a dedicated server for all my websites, and now I put them on 2 separate shared hosting accounts, and some small nodes, but that's the nodes are sponsored, and this is probably going to go into I opened a can of worms right now, so I'm not paying for some infrastructure. But the biggest move for me was shutting down the dedicated server that I was paying and the cPanel license, and moving it on the 2 separate shared hosting accounts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, those subscriptions add up fast. Like, gosh, all of a sudden they're so small, but then all of a sudden you turn around and like, dang, man, I'm paying a lot on a SaaS bill or a lot on whatever bill.
Yeah. Whenever you start a monthly subscription, it's a fun ride, and yeah, it's a fun ride, and you definitely start to question, do I really need this? Am I really utilizing this to the full extent? Am I maximizing the profits on this one? So Yeah, it's but then vice versa for me as well. I'm selling monthly subscriptions on my APIs, and as much as it's great to have monthly subscribers, it's sometimes it's hard to convince them to renew the monthly or the yearly subscription. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, if people didn't buy it, people wouldn't sell it. So we wouldn't sell it. But that's funny. And then last question for you. Interested to hear your answer on this. What do you think is a great business that doesn't exist today?
I would say space travel, because I think that everybody needs to see the Earth from above and to see, to see this small planet, and that we're all a part of it, and that we're all on the same planet and on the same ride. I
Mm-hmm.
think nowadays, especially with everything going on, I think everybody needs a reminder that that's what it is.
Mm. Well said, Goran. Thanks so much for being on the podcast. If people want to learn more about you or what you're doing, where should they go?
Well, I think we mentioned far too many times Webmaster Ninja. That's one of the ways, or on my personal website. From there, you can see my Twitter account, or not so often Instagram post or something like this, just to stay in touch of the books I'm reading and mentioning, and the the websites I'm buying or selling or something like this.
Great. So those links are in the description below. So that's webmaster.ninja. And then your website is duskic.com. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the URL, and yeah, if anybody wants to send an email, I always respond to an email. Uh, every day is an inbox zero for me.
Nice.
I can attach proof if somebody needs that. So I do see all the emails and I do respond to them. So be happy to chat with any of your watchers and listeners.
Awesome. Thanks so much for getting on here, Goran. Really, really appreciate it. And great podcast.
Thanks, Brady. Thanks for inviting me, and good luck to everybody who is buying and selling websites.